When you think of a library, you think of books, but an archive like the LGBTQ Center at Central Connecticut State University is more than that. It's boxes and boxes of history waiting to be discovered.
Primary sources are the records or papers of organizations and individuals. And to use this material to write a book, you need some primary resources. So authors reach out to the archival collections.
It's notes or official documents, but it's also buttons or t-shirts, all telling the story of the fight for rights and recognition.
I'm going to use the word fight for the rights of, underprivileged, underrepresented groups like gay, lesbian, transgender, queer. And, people want to know what was happening in Connecticut at a certain time.
Author and CCSU Professor William Mann sees the work as more important than ever.
Those of us who've been working in this field for many years had to fight to find this history and to record it and to preserve it. And there's attempts right now to erase some of this history, or at least to put it behind us, to not talk about it anymore, but all the more reasons to talk about it. The people who keep this history are heroes.
It's a printed handbill, probably copied for pennies at a copy shop and distributed to people as they walk by. But to the staff at the Connecticut Museum of Culture and History, it's a breadcrumb, a moment in time that tells us a story, leading to chapters we don't even know yet. The flyer announces the return of drag shows at a club in West Hartford, nearly 50 years ago, with the hand-lettered, "We're back to stay."
We know members of the LGBTQ community have always been in Connecticut, but it's been hard to document that history through the objects in our collection because it was either not left behind in concrete ways, so we have to kind of read between the lines to see how those people were in the community and how they fit into the community.
What the museum is looking for is more context. What were the shows like? Who performed? All pieces of a puzzle that makes up LGBTQ life before being documented on social media. The collection also contains a likely love story. After the Civil War, Addie Brown wrote to Rebecca Primus. Both women were African American, and by today's measure, the two were expressing romantic feelings.
So they write back and forth to each other, very intimate letters, very, by today's language, you would assume they were a couple, but we do not know that for sure. We don't have any concrete evidence that that was the fact. All we have are these one-sided letters from one woman to another.
To some, the collections offer a connection to the past and to people just like themselves.
My students actually call them their queer ancestors, because sometimes their own families aren't available to them. Their own families have rejected them. But then they learn about Marsha P. Johnson or Harvey Milk or James Baldwin, and they say, oh, I do have a family. These are people who fought for me before I was born.
With the papers of Jerry Marie Leisengang, who championed transgender rights for decades here in Connecticut until her death in 2020, students can examine the actual documents for greater context and accuracy.
Her papers are remarkable because they stretch back into the 1980s, a time when people weren't talking about transgender issues.
When we educate others, when we share the personal struggles, we are really opening avenue to understanding. We are not being afraid from the others. And people have different opinions, might agree or disagree with certain groups and their beliefs, but at least those archives gives a chance to understand, to see what people are coming from.
In New Britain, Doug Stewart, Fox 61.